before the material universe even existed, there was a vast divine realm filled with the spiritual beings known as eons. And together, these eons made up what the Gnostics call the entirety, or the pleroma, which is basically a Greek word meaning fullness. Now, this all happened outside of time, so there's no before or after, and that framing doesn't even really make sense here. But let's start at the beginning, if there is one. At the center of everything is the ultimate absolute God. The Gnostics called this divine source by many names: the Platonic One, or the Monad, the Father of the entirety, and most commonly, the invisible Spirit. Now, the ultimate God is beyond all human understanding. You can't describe it, you can't comprehend it, and yet it is the source of everything that exists. Indeed, everything exists within it. From the secret book of John, it actually says, "The one is the invisible Spirit. We should not think of it as a god or like a god, for it is greater than a god, because it has nothing over it and no lord above it. It does not exist within anything inferior to it, since everything exists within it, for it established itself. It is eternal, since it does not need anything, for it is absolutely complete. It has never lacked anything in order to complete itself. Rather, it is always absolute, complete in light." So you can understand that this is a very broad, big thing that is almost greater than God, is kind of how they're describing it. This invisible spirit is pure consciousness. It thinks about itself and knows itself in a way that we can't fully understand. Through this self-awareness, it evolves into the complex world of eons that make up the entirety. Now think of eons as God's thoughts about itself. They're both identical to God and somehow distinct from it. It's like a reflection in a mirror is both you, but also not you at the same time. Scholar David Brackey explains it this way: the eons that make up the entirety result from the invisible spirit's knowledge or thought of itself. They are its thinking or its intellect in all of its complexity. They form also a spiritual realm, the equivalent of Plato's realm of ideal forms. For the Gnostics, the entirety that the eons constitute is truly real and eternal. The material world is a flawed imitation of the entirety and destined to perish. So, these eons are divine beings, each one named after a divine attribute. They are pure concepts that are made into spiritual entities, and just barely we can actually see the most faint reflection of what they are actually like in our material world. What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because I have a story to tell you. Fun fact: after you have a child, your testosterone naturally goes down. It's a way for you to become more empathetic and more in touch and protect your kid and stuff. And I didn't really believe that. But then I had a baby a year ago and I started to feel it. Around 3 o'clock would roll around and I would get more tired. I wasn't really sleeping that great because we just had a baby. And I was drinking more coffee and I started getting anxious and I was like, this is not working. I was like, should I just do TRT? I know a lot of guys when they hit 30, 40, they're just ripping TRT. So I was looking into it and I was like, it affects your fertility. I might want to have some more kids. So I was like, all right, there must be a way I can do this that's more natural and just support my testosterone. So I hit my buddy David, who does the ads, and I was like, is there anyone that's out there doing any of this kind of stuff? And he was like, oh, you should check out Mars Men. Mars Men right here is a natural testosterone booster. This is going to just basically support your testosterone using a bunch of supplements and natural ingredients that are going to make your testosterone be what it's supposed to be, okay? Don't even think about TRT because, again, it can be overkill. You're going to be injecting your body, and it can also shut down your body's natural production of testosterone. But using this stuff, Tungat Ali, Shilajit, vitamin D, zinc, boron, all the natural stuff that is going to be supporting your healthy T levels and helping your stamina and giving you more energy throughout the day. And honestly, it's great. I've only been trying it for, a couple weeks now, and I want to do a before and after testosterone test and see how much more my testosterone boosted. 91% of guys reported feeling higher energy, and the reviews on this are absolutely amazing. It's made in the USA, third-party tested, and there is a 90-day money-back guarantee, so there's literally no risk. You can try it for, 3 months, and if it's not for you, they will get you your money back. And for a limited time, the listeners of this program, this is a crazy deal, by the way. Most brands don't do this. You're going to get 60% off for life and 3 free gifts when you use the code CAMP at mengotomars.com. That is men, M-E-N, go to Mars, M-A-R-S.com, and use the code CAMP at checkout. And after your purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please say that you heard about them from Camp Gagnon, that we sent you there. It really helps us out. Mars Men is great. It is a natural support for your testosterone. Look, you can buy all of these supplements separately, or you can just go to Mars Men and get it all in one case. Now, let's get back to the show. So, just to catch everyone up, you have the invisible spirit that is greater than anything that could ever be comprehended ever, and from its own thoughts come these eons that have these positive attributes, and then that trickles down into our actual reality that we can just only appreciate a tiny fragment of even just the thoughts of this great consciousness. Fair? Now, the first eon that emerges from the invisible spirit is called forethought, also known by the name Barbello. So from the secret book of John, it says, his, in other words, the invisible spirit, thought became a reality, and she who appeared in his presence in shining light came forth. She is the first power who preceded everything and came forth from his mind as the forethought of the all. Her light shines like the Father's light. She, the perfect power, is the image of the perfect and invisible virgin spirit. She, the first power, the glory of Barbello, the perfect glory among the eons, the glory of revelation, she glorified and praised the virgin spirit, for because of the spirit she had come forth. She is the first thought, the image of the spirit. She became the universal womb, for she precedes everything. So, Barbello is absolutely central to Gnostic thought. All other eons emerge from her. She is the cosmic womb, and every Gnostic text mentions her, though what comes after can vary between different writings. Now, Barbello is also crucial for understanding how the Gnostics actually interpreted Christianity. Together with the invisible spirit, Barbello gives birth to another divine being called the Self-Originate, who is also identified with Christ. This creates a divine family: Father, which is the invisible spirit, the Mother, Barbello, and the Son, which is Christ. We'll come back to Christ's role later, but for now, just know that he serves as a bridge between Barbello, the Mother, and the multitude of other eons. Around Christ are four great luminaries, all with their own names. Their names are Harmozel, Oriel, Davathai, and Elilith. Now, within these luminaries exist the archetypal forms of humanity, the original Adam and his son Seth, and from these four luminaries, more eons continue to branch out. You can see why this system is hard to grasp, right? It's super intricate, and different Gnostic texts give different accounts of exactly how the divine realm is actually structured. So it's difficult to really make definitive statements about what they believe the details were. But typically, there are 24 eons in total. So almost 24 thoughts of this divine, monad. As I mentioned, they are named after these divine tributes, so truth, mind, life, and most important for our story, wisdom, called Sophia in Greek. Even though the eons exist beyond gender, they're often described as male-female pairs that actually complement each other. They're also distinct in some ways, meaning that they're all God in a general sense because they are of the thoughts of God, but they also make up a more complex kind of divinity than simple monotheism that we're used to today. Now we get to the crucial point of the Gnostic creation story, and it centers around one of the outermost eons, which is wisdom, or also known as Sophia. Now, according to the secret book of John, Sophia wanted to create something, a thought of her own. But she did this without consulting her male counterpart and without permission from the great invisible spirit. So, it says, she, wisdom, wanted to bring forth something like herself without the consent of the spirit, who had not given approval, without her partner, and without his consideration. The male did not give approval. She did not find her partner, and she considered this without the spirit's consent and without the knowledge of her partner. Nonetheless, she gave birth. The result was disaster. Because Sophia acted alone, without balance or approval, her creation came out wrong, horribly wrong. And it was, a mishap, imperfect being that existed outside of divine harmony of the entirety. It says, it did not resemble its mother and was misshapen. When Sophia saw what her desire had produced, it changed into the figure of a snake with the face of a lion. Sophia was immediately horrified and ashamed. She hid her deformed creation away from the other eons and concealed it in a cloud. This being was given the name Yaldabaoth, and she sometimes called it Saklas. Now, here is where things get interesting. Yaldabaoth, this sort of snake with a lion head, in his ignorance, doesn't know about the true divine world above him. He thinks he is the only God that exists. with only dim, distorted memories of the divine everything, the pleroma, he proceeds to create his own world, a flawed, imperfect imitation of the true divine realm. And that realm, that this being, this sort of bastard, misshapen snake with the lion head, the world that it created, is the universe that we live in. And this is where the Gnostics make their most radical break from what we consider to be mainstream Christianity or Judaism. They're basically saying that our entire universe was created by mistake by an ignorant lesser being who thought that he was the only God. Now, the idea that the material world was created by this, lesser being, often called the craftsman or the term the demiurge, wasn't that shocking in the ancient world. Many philosophers and even monotheists accepted a version of this concept, which, was fairly radical for nowadays. But at the time, there were versions and sects of, religious ideologues that actually thought this. What was radical was claiming that this creator was ignorant and in some way actually evil. This led to a stunning reinterpretation of the entire Hebrew Bible. Every story from the Old Testament, the creation of Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden, the flood, giving of the law to Moses, was all the work of Yaldabaoth, the fake God, the lesser God that came from this bastardization of Sophia, this sort of eon of wisdom. The God of the Israelites, the God who appears throughout the Old Testament, is, according to this interpretation, a false and ignorant deity. Now, again, this is not the view that I hold. This is just the Gnostic view. Now, in this view, the material world becomes something negative. It's the result of this mistake that actually needs to be corrected. We are prisoners in a creation made by this foolish being who is keeping us trapped here. But there's hope.